My apologies if this comes out as inappropriate. English is not my native tongue. I felt compelled to share this story since it continues to terrify me. About a year ago, when male 25 was visiting friends, something happened that has stuck with me ever since. I remained out late because I was on vacation, even though it was the middle of the week. I hopped in my car and drove home maybe around 1:30 in the morning. The drive should take around half an hour. I reside on a main street in a tiny German town. It's on the smaller side. There's almost no traffic on weeknights, occasionally. Maybe one or two vehicles. It's done. To put it in context, it could be useful. You can see for miles when you come from the way I drove. Up to 700 meters, perhaps. A parking spot in an underground garage that is shared by 10 other residents is being rented out by me. Tucked away beside the structure and slightly concealed by the adjacent residences is the garage entry, standing directly in front of. It is the only way to make it out. All right, let's get back to the plot. My journey home had begun. The evening in early spring was ordinary. It was business as usual. As I drew into the driveway, I paused to use my remote to unlock the garage door. My parking slot faces the entrance, so I reversed into it. I continued to search the center console while the engine remained running. For what reason is beyond my memory. Upon raising my head to see, I beheld an unfamiliar figure standing there. A middle-aged man stood staring at me from a distance of 3 meters, directly in front of my automobile. My heart raced with fear. I instinctively pressed the button to secure my vehicle. He insisted I give him my phone, yelling that his vehicle had stopped working and he had to make a call immediately. However, I had failed to see any malfunctioning vehicles or flashing warning lights along the route. Neither vehicle drew over, under no circumstances. My body froze in astonishment, and all I could do was look at him. It appeared like he noticed my bewilderment. He elaborated by saying that the breakdown occurred in the next town, which is, incidentally, almost an hour's walk away. He got much louder and more hostile as he demanded my phone from me again. It was at that moment that I saw his missing garment. No shirt, just checkered shorts that reached the knees. Although the temperature wasn't quite frigid, it was certainly not comfortable enough to stand around in a half-naked state. I told him to go because I couldn't assist him, and shouted it through the closed window. "You don't have to be scared of me," he added, his anger clearly visible. "Please just bring your phone over here." I apologized, but no, and I told him he had to go. After staring for a while, he stormed out of the garage in a furious mood. Until the garage door was completely shut, I remained in my vehicle. I didn't switch off the engine until after that. I mustered all the bravery I could muster and dashed to the door. That led to the corridor of my apartment in an attempt to contact a buddy. But alas, the garage lacked coverage. It's a hefty door that occasionally gets stuck. Fortunately, that night was not it. Additionally, there's an exterior door leading to the garage. However, I was not of whether or not the man was aware of this door's security status. I sprinted to my ground-level flat as soon as I entered. A shrub blocks part of my view from my terrace, but you can still see it from the street. After securing everything and drawing the shades, I waited a few minutes before contacting a friend. I almost called the cops, but ultimately decided against it since I felt the police had more pressing issues to handle, and the man hadn't actually done anything to me. In hindsight, I see how I should have done it. I was just so scared. He could have asked me to do anything other than follow a young woman into a garage at night. While she was half naked, I normally enjoy helping people or to call someone from outside. No way. Thankfully, I never saw him again, but that night solidified my hatred of parking there. As soon as the garage door closes all the way, I get out of my car. I remain anxious even in those situations. I'm relieved that I didn't let the car die and that I secured the doors. Thank goodness my parking spot is directly across from the entrance. That way I could see well. On that same note, I'm relieved that the door didn't jam that evening. Honestly, I wish I had stayed in the car sooner. The thought of what may have transpired if I had is too terrifying for me to bear. I came out as a woman when I was 20 years old. During the summer, I sublet a friend's apartment. It was a typical house in a subdivision where the residents are all students. It was a 4-bedroom house. I was all by myself for the summer, since the other housemates had also booked a bedroom. Just so it happened, my friend's younger sister was looking for a summer home for her rescue pit. I've always had a soft spot for pit bulls and boxers. I have a lifelong fascination. Still, I'm quite relieved that I acquired that puppy. She rescued me, maybe even saved my life, I promise. 2 aspects of my personality cause me to be extremely fixated on them. When I leave the house or am by myself, I clean and lock the doors or set the alarm. That summer, I was home alone a lot, so I did both of those things quite a bit. June was the name of the pit bull I had the very first night that I had her. If I'm being completely forthright, I was anxious. Just about a month ago, my buddy's sibling rescued this pit bull, but I didn't find out about it until my friend dropped off the dog. Obviously, I ought to have probed further. Being a little wary of strangers and having just come from the shelter or rescue, I was anxious. It was obvious from her interactions with me and the house that my friend's sister had found her somewhere. June had obviously been mistreated. The dog appeared to have given birth either very recently or not long ago, as shown by the numerous scars covering her body. The fact that this dog was completely jacked is also noteworthy. I was confident in my abilities because I had previously rehabilitated the dog. Ultimately, I had the whole summer to myself, and June was the only company I had. This particular house even had those magnetic thaw blocks. There was a front entrance that faced the other homes in the area. At the rear of the house, there was a door that led to a type of alley where I kept my automobile. Anytime I entered or exited a room, including the bedroom, I made sure to lock the door. There was an alarm system in the home, but the girls who lived there remember I was subletting never set it up and had no interest in doing so. So I had to depend on the locks. June was with me in the bedroom. So, on the first night, I crawl into bed and lead June to the nice, plush bed I had made for her, complete with blankets, toys, and all. May have been June's call, not at all, for the reason that, in the blink of an eye, she had turned her head to face me in bed, and look at all those teeth closed beside mine. I was terrified that I would roll over onto her foot or something, so I hardly slept. Infuriate her to the point that I get my face devoured. I know that seems ridiculous, but it was all I could think of while I laid in bed, staring at this enormous canine. The second evening, I had the same experience, however I was able to fall asleep more easily. The following morning, I awoke to find June gazing deeply into my soul, as if we're becoming closer. Evening 3, in the evening, we cuddled together and watched movies. She must have felt my love since she allowed me to pet her belly and behaved more like a dog than a recently released prisoner after I gave her some of my pizza crusts. Consequently, I awakened at a very early hour the morning following night 3, so around 6:30 in the morning. For my noon class, I often rose at approximately 9 in the morning. I noticed June while I'm attempting to snap out of my drowsy fog and figure out why the fuck I'm wide awake at this hour. The bedroom door is being pounded by June's snarls, sniffs, and body slams as she snarls at the base and repeatedly lunges at the handle. Despite how terrible it was, I had no fear of her. As soon as I heard jiggling outside my locked bedroom door, I knew someone or something was there. I retrieved my 12-gauge rifle from under my bed and racked it since I do, in fact, reside in Texas. It is an extremely noisy gun that is really old. All noise ceased as soon as I cocked the rifle. Me, who's around, keeping up with maintenance. Our role is upkeep. Our intention was not to frighten you. Our mission is to repair the dishwasher. I didn't submit the request for maintenance, and I mentioned that the dishwasher is on the first floor in the kitchen. Sure. No one was present, so we were informed. I figured I'd show the new recruit the inside of a typical residence, as we're in the process of training him. June is completely out of her mind right now, and it's terrifying me. The fact that these morons got me up at such an ungodly hour kind of irritates me. After that, it clicks. The doors were securely secured. The maintenance crew may have figured out how to open the locked doors for themselves. I am really confused. At least in the apartments close to college, magnetic fobs were novel at the time. In retrospect, I should have been more frightened, but the sound of the monster beyond the door and the sound of my gunshot made it clear that these people were completely unprepared. In order to verify their legitimacy as military, I slightly cracked the door open, allowing them to view the weapon and June's outraged expression. For some reason, they weren't even wearing uniforms. The number of males was 3. 2 guys appeared to have been through a lot. The other man was in his mid-20s, whereas they were probably in their early 40s. The 3 men appeared unclean, as if they had spent the night outside. It looked like the clothing were clean, but it had been quite a while since they took a shower. Otherwise, I'll open the door and let June out if I order them to go. They are asked to depart immediately, and I assure them that I will contact the front desk to resolve the matter. Indeed, the trio of males did indeed leave my residence after making a U-turn. After the guys departed, I went around to all the doors and saw that the back one was wide open. The night prior, I verified it. I guarantee I didn't leave the key in the lock. Immediately upon opening at 8 a.m., I phoned the front desk, who informed me that no repair guys had been deployed for the day, and then requested a description of the workers. I hope they were ever apprehended, though I don't know for sure. I've never felt such a terrifying terror before. Although I had fired my gun on occasion when hunting, I had never once targeted an individual. At least 5 women had been assaulted in that particular apartment complex in the weeks preceding our encounter, so I was understandably anxious. We bonded, and I felt she had my back the whole summer, so much so that I considered adopting her. She made me feel secure, but the apartment I was getting ready to move into was tiny and didn't have a yard, so she wouldn't be happy there. June rescued me from a terrible danger, and I still believe it to this day. While working out of a hotel at the age of 22, I had a terrifying incident. In the years around 2010, I was a part of a roaming photographic crew that photographed church directories. The photographers came from all around the world and drove independently. To clarify, I was in Iowa's Harlan at the moment. A group of other photographers and I were staying at a hotel. I counted 2 males, 1 female, and myself among the 4 of us. While having breakfast at the hotel one morning, I happened to be watching television in the breakfast area. Also down there, close by, was a man. Like I do everywhere I go, I said good morning as soon as he looked at me. After he repeated it, we had a civil conversation, like doing something with a complete stranger you had no idea you'd ever see again. He said he and his crew were staying there for a building project. I casually say, "Have a good one." As I'm about to go, "See you later." He said something like, "We could hang out later." I didn't think anything of it and just brushed it off. Like, yeah, maybe. I don't remember if it was the same day or not, but as I didn't work until 11 a.m., we tend to work from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., give or take, depending on the size of the church, etc. I decided to go take a nap since I didn't sleep well the night before. While lying in my room, I kept receiving phone calls to my room phone. I wasn't used to getting calls like that ever, so I just picked up. I would say hello, but nobody would answer. After a few times, I eventually took the receiver off and placed it beside the phone so it would stop ringing. When it was time to get up and leave, I left my room and saw the guy was there in the hall. I waved casually, still not thinking anything of it. He asked where I was going, and I said I had to go to work. My friend showed up, female photographer, and I went with her to her car. As I was going to ride with her to the church, I told her about getting strange phone calls, and she mentioned that she did as well. Later that night there was a thunderstorm. My photographer group and I stood by the hotel lobby door watching the lightning. It was thundering and extremely dark. There were chances for tornadoes, so we were keeping tabs with each other. Eventually, I go to my room for the night and I hear a knock on my door. I didn't really want to answer it. However, I did, cracking the door to see who it was. It was the guy. He talked about how I said we could hang out, and I told him I was too tired after working all day, and I needed to sleep, so I shut the door. Now I can't remember if this was the next morning or still night, but I recall him knocking again. But I wouldn't answer. I pretended to either be out or sleeping. I called my mom and started talking to her. I told her what was happening, and although I was scared, I almost acted like I wasn't when speaking with her. But suddenly I had a weird feeling. I whispered to my Mom, hold on a second. I need to check something. I tiptoed as quietly over to my room door as possible. I look out the peephole and I see him. Then see him turn his head to my door as if he were listening for something. My heart started to race. I then saw him move to the side. You know how the wall sometimes goes in for the door? So there is like an indentation in the hallway for each room. Well, he goes to the wall away from the room that juts out. I think he thought he was hiding because he would try to lean his head around the corner or the jut-out portion as if listening for something. I walked to the furthest side of my room quietly and whispered to my mom about how I'm scared. I called the front desk to complain like my mom suggested. I can't remember if I also texted my friend or called her, but she also complained to the front desk about the various phone calls she received. Eventually, we were given new rooms, and the construction group manager was told by the hotel about one of his guys. That creepy guy was told to stay away from us. I even told some of the church people about the situation, and they all said if we needed to stay with them, we could. All very nice, but still all strangers to me, and I didn't trust anyone at that point. I'm not sure what happened to him as I didn't see him after that. I was a little jealous of my friend because she ended up with a hot tub in her room and I didn't, but it was fine. However, after that, I was more aware and careful with who I talked to and what I said. This happened 2 days ago, and I'm still very shaken up about it. I was with my brother and father. We were just at the immigration department in Hong Kong to sort something out for us. Further context, I'm 20 female and I'm not a HK local. It was getting late, and my dad suggested we start taking the bus back now to eat close to the apartment area, or most good places would be closed by then. Midway, there was a stop that my brother suggested we get off at and find food. We all agreed. I started to desperately need the toilet, and so my brother pointed at the closest McDonald's. We could see. Big mistake. We go in. My brother and dad are waiting downstairs. I was under the assumption that, well, if there's no toilet downstairs, then there should be one up. If not, I'll leave and find another place. I walk up the stairs and look around, somewhat pacing as I desperately need to pee. The McDonald's worker seems to have spotted me and was looking at me, almost expecting me to bother him. I asked him if there's a toilet. He said, toilet, through the door, turn left and take a lift up. It's an ominous brown door with no signs or anything at the front. He's the worker, so I assume he knows better than me. I open it and what the heck? It's very dark and run down. A completely different vibe from the modern McDonald's. Extremely quiet. As soon as the door closed, it was almost soundproof. All the bustling, loud noises, and the McDonald's had completely stopped. The room was just very dark with minimal white light. There were multiple doors that appeared locked in the building. I didn't explore much as I thought it was maybe a staff room. I turned the left corner as instructed, and there was indeed a lift. I assume maybe this is just very odd passage to a shopping mall, which isn't too uncommon in Hong Kong, and surely how bad can this be if there is a lift? I press the lift and step in. Suddenly I hear the door open, and the worker that directed me goes into the lift with me as well. I notice he's holding a black bin bag that is filled with little to nothing. I assume, oh okay, maybe he needs to put this out and help me find the toilet. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I ask him what floor I pressed, and he presses the 2nd floor. Once the door closes, it's a bit quiet and awkward. I glance at him for a second. He was wearing a COVID face mask. One eye looking forward, and he had a lazy eye looking to the side. Suddenly he says, Lang Ho Lang, which translates to you are very pretty. At this point is very awkward, and I just said a quiet thank you to not aggravate him. I'm wondering if I actually need to pee this badly now. The lift stops finally. I was fully expecting a shopping mall when the lift doors opened, but that was not the case. The doors opened, and it was just a dark, quiet, very run-down narrow hallway of doors. It was so dark with infinite corners. Not a single person was there but us. I couldn't tell what the building was. Maybe an odd cross of abandoned apartment building doors and office doors at this point. We're both still standing in the lift, and my entire body is in a flight or flight response, as this whole situation was making me fear the worst. The worker gestures for me to get off at this lift and almost wants to continue walking me to the toilet. I quickly make an excuse of, "I've bothered you so much already from your work. You can just point at the direction and I'll find it. I promise." He points to the right and tells me to go through there, and that's the toilet. Thank him and then go to the complete opposite direction he told me. The whole place was like a maze, narrow hallways with stairs. I got curious and pushed at one of them and it was locked. At this point I'm really trying to stall enough time to appear. I went to the toilet before getting back to the lift. I get a call from my brother now, a very angry call asking why I've taken so long and where I am. I explain that I don't know where I am. I'm trying to find my way back. I hang up and I'm getting increasingly more scared as the place is giant, like abandoned office apartment hallways with no signs of anything, all being extremely dark with minimal light. The walls were all torn down. It's just so quiet and rundown. There was no way a functioning toilet was up here. I'm really panicking now and trying to find my way back to the lift, scared shitless. My initial discomfort of desperately needing to pee turned to desperately wanting to leave. Calmed myself down a bit with breathing exercises and tried to recollect the steps I took. Finally found the lift and quickly pressed back down. I pressed the close button so much. The lift takes me back down to the hallway, but by accident I walked forwards instead of turning right. What the heck? There are more doors. 4 to 5 doors next to each other, but what was the strangest was the fact that doors were all facing this large glass panel wall. Between the McDonald's, I was able to look at the McDonald's and people eating, but they didn't notice I was there at all. I walked back and turned right this time, through the door. I was finally in the McDonald's again, but that glass wall on my end appeared to be a large mirror in the McDonald's. It was a double mirror. I looked around, and there was no sight of the McDonald's worker either. I quickly walked back down to the restaurant area, and I see my dad and brother. My dad asked if I was okay as I looked really pale. I said I'll tell him about it when we're out. I asked him if he saw the worker again when they were waiting, describing him as a man with a mask on and a lazy eye. My dad shook his head and said he didn't see any worker when he checked upstairs from me earlier. My heart dropped as soon as I heard that. The worker was still up the lift. My dad also said, "Don't tell me you went through that lift. I opened that door and walked through a bit to find you. It was scary. I were there so many doors in that glass. I thought there was something wrong and got out immediately. Bear in mind, my dad is a built man." He then set my brother up to go look for me. Not sure why, my brother is pretty skinny and unathletic in comparison. He opened the brown door just to see and noped out. He described it as looking like big dark back rooms, with the doors next to each other, back to back. He did not want to walk in there to explore. I will never go to the toilets alone again, and seeing a McDonald's will forever hold this memory. For me, I found out recently that while I was upstairs, my dad and brother had come up with a plan. My dad was seriously considering going through every floor via the ominous brown door, kicking down doors and shouting my name. He said he had a very bad gut feeling and was ready to act on it. They gave it a 15-minute window if he didn't return with me or at all within that time. My brother was supposed to call the police, but my brother disagreed with that plan. He suggested it would be better for them to cover all the exits and just wait for me to come out, assuming I would eventually find a way back. He figured the place was too big and unpredictable for them to search floor by floor, and the chances of finding me quickly that way were low. I asked him, "But what if I didn't come out?" He replied, dead serious, "Then at least we'd find your remains." Morbid, yes, but I get why they were thinking like that now. None of us knew what was really up there, and that unknown made everything feel 100 times more dangerous. When I was 18, I was desperate to find a place to stay for university. There's a massive housing shortage where I live, so I went on Facebook to find a room. Eventually, a man from Egypt met me saying that he has a private room available. He told me that he moved back to Egypt due to being ill and decided to rent out his 3-bedroom house. He had no profile picture or any info on his profile other than his name. He gave me the address to get a house tour with the current tenants that are moving out. His son was the one that led me to have a house tour, and that gave me the keys. Later via mail, this is shared house with 3 students. With the kitchen and bathroom being shared, I tour around. Everything seems to be normal and clean in the house. So I asked the former tenants why they're leaving. They told me that the landlord is a weird guy, but I think nothing of it and decided to sign the contract via email. I did not see his son after that house tour. After signing the contract, my landlord got my phone number on WhatsApp and messaged me saying that he wants to build a friendship with me. I say that I'm too busy right now with school, but he would call me sometimes, up to 10 times a day, and ask why I'm not picking up. He called me because he said he was lonely and needed company. Most of the time I wouldn't respond and move past it and pay the rent. About a month after I moved into the house, his messages became stranger. I noticed, "You have a heater and an air fryer on your table. Could you please not use those? Why do you own 2 laptops? That's kind of strange," he said. What gave this man the impression that he was in Egypt since we'd never met in person, and I had locked all of my doors and windows? How could he have known those things were on my table? This kind of letter was one of several that commented on my room's decor or organization. And most crucially, he would try to add 150 euros to my rent because I used my air fryer too often. As I mentioned before, he had no way of knowing that I was using my air fryer and not my roommates because I never left my room with it. In terms of the housemates, they were laid-back students from all over the world but not from Egypt. I informed them about the communications I got, and they denied receiving anything similar or hearing from the landlord. They insisted they've never set foot in my room or spoken to my landlord. Their claim that rent had been paid was the only message on their WhatsApp, which I requested to check because I didn't believe them. The key that belonged to my roommate did not work when I tried to open my door with it. For the most part of the day, they were also absent. My next move was to put him to the test. I used to sit in my room and place certain things on my table to see if he would comment on them. I was in the midst of lecturing when I freaked out because he noticed. After 2 days of disregarding everyone's feedback on the items I arranged, I start receiving multiple calls from random numbers. I responded just twice. "Please return home," said the voice, which bore some resemblance to the landlord. Upon returning home, I noticed that the front door leading to my private room was covered in the trash that I had discarded earlier. I finally located a more secure location to live and took legal action against my Egyptian landlord after over a year of suffering with this. How he knew what was in my room and how all that rubbish wound up outside my door is something I still don't understand. I don't really know, but one of my friends thinks there were hidden cameras, and another thinks my roommate was spying on me.